Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nintendo Switch Lite and see how this particular console holds up in 2025. Now, this console is actually going through and turning 6 years old this year, which is pretty insane. Now, this year is going to be a pretty big year for this particular, device. You can imagine, number one, it's basically going to be going through and giving us, we're going to be getting the next Nintendo Switch at some point this year. So that is going to be a pretty big deal in and of itself. But on top of that, we are also going to be going through and getting probably a couple more games from the Nintendo Switch Lite, maybe some deals for this console here and there. But this could be one of the last years where this is going to be kind of their own, like their last, smaller, mid-tier, kind of cheaper type of console, because there could be a Nintendo Switch 2 Lite we could be seeing as well. So we'll take a look at all those things throughout this whole entire video. First things first, if you want to pick up this console or some of the other consoles that we'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Nintendo Switch Lite, the way this console is structured is very interesting because it is a little bit of a different type of console coming from their other, consoles that they make. So this thing on the front side is giving you a 5.5-inch LCD panel. It's 720p, and it's not a terrible panel by any means at all. It still looks good, it's a decent panel, but when compared to the OLED displays like on the Nintendo Switch OLED, that is a significantly better type of panel when it comes down to it. But this Nintendo Switch panel still is decent, it's not terrible, so just kind of keep that in mind at the end of the day. You are getting your buttons and everything like that on the sides of this controller. Now, the joystick is the one issue that a majority of people have problems with. So if you're going to go through and you're going to pick up something like the Nintendo Switch Lite, this is the one thing on this phone that a lot of people have started looking at of the successor and kind of thinking that Nintendo has fixed this problem, right? Because this was a plaguing problem where people on their Nintendo Switch Lite would basically have this type of, joystick drift on their console. It wasn't like one or two people or 100 people. It was basically every single person that would ever buy a Nintendo Switch or Switch Lite would experience this type of problem. Now, for the Switch Lite, this problem I think still persisted, but at least with the Joy-Cons, you could go through, like with the original Nintendo Switch or the OLED Switch, you could go through and you can transfer out those Joy-Cons, you can buy new ones, and yes, it's annoying and yes, it costs money, but at least you can kind of fix it. You can also send in those Joy-Cons to repair to Nintendo, and they would fix it usually for free. But guess what? With the Switch Lite, that is not the case. And that is a problem that you're kind of experiencing here with this type of console. So it's almost like, why buy this type of console if you're probably already going to experience that type of problem? And kind of think about that in the back of your head, right? Because that could be a situation that you kind of run into here. Now, internally, you do basically have that, the software. Obviously, you can play all the Nintendo Switch games on it, and there's a lot of games into here, and we'll talk about that in a second. You have the game card, expandable storage, charging ports. Overall, the outside, it feels pretty good, right? It feels like a very well-built console. It doesn't feel cheap. Of course, it's a cheaper console. It's not supposed to feel like an iPhone or a Samsung phone, but it still feels like a very, very good premium console for the most part for what you're paying for. Now, kind of digging deep a little bit more, there's some limitations on the Nintendo Switch Lite going into the next couple of years that you might feel that are a little bit outdated when it comes down to it. Number one, it is only a handheld device. You could not go through and plug in the Nintendo Switch Lite into a monitor. That might not be a big deal for you right now, and it might not be a big deal for you tomorrow. But there are a lot of people I've seen who end up buying a Switch Lite and kind of wish they kind of had the capability of plugging it into a TV and monitor and playing it there, and then they end up buying the original Nintendo Switch. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't care about that kind of stuff at all, or if you only play in handheld mode, then I think the Switch Lite is almost perfect for you. I think that display itself on the Switch Lite really isn't that great, especially compared to the OLED Switch, but I don't think it's terrible here either. But that could be one of the issues that you might run into here for the most part. On top of that, because it's a smaller display compared to like the Switch, standard Switch and the Nintendo Switch OLED, which are giving you bigger panels, even when you're playing handheld, you're going to be getting a smaller display experience. And if you're going through and playing multiplayer games, it's a smaller display that you and other people have to share with. So again, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You're not going to be feeling like it's the worst experience of all time. But I do think, for the most part, if you are going to go through and look at this type of display, it could be a make it or break it for you, because that could be kind of one of the things to kind of keep in mind here, in my personal opinion. Now, I think beyond that, the gaming selection and the pros of having a Nintendo Switch, even the Switch Lite, are still so good. Being able to go through and buy a Nintendo Switch Lite that's going to be able to go through and give you that type of capability is so good, because there's still so much, there's so many games available for the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it makes me feel very, very good of owning this type of console, because it is going to be giving you that type of capability for a long period of time. So all those games that you're going to be able to play with, that's such an amazing thing and an awesome capability to have here. There are endless amounts of games to play on the Nintendo Switch Lite. You have all those Mario games, Zelda games. The new Mario Wonder came out like a year and a half ago. That one is relatively new. There are still lots of games that are available for this console. And if you're brand new to the Nintendo Switch lineup, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would I go buy the Switch Lite when the next Switch is going to be coming out, right? Well, in that case, if the things that I've already complained to you about aren't big deals to you, then I definitely do think this console, from a gaming library perspective, is not going to be feeling like an outdated console. To give you some perspective, there are still so many people playing Nintendo GameCube games. There are still so many people playing Nintendo Wii games. Myself, I play a lot of DS Lite games, a lot of 3DS games, a lot of Wii games, a lot of Wii U games here and there, but those consoles aren't even being sold anymore, right? So I say that to say, even with the Switch Lite, even though this console is still being sold brand new and everything, for the next 20, 30, 40 years, I feel like people are still going to be playing Nintendo Switch games. Just like how we're still playing Nintendo GameCube games and PlayStation 1 games that came out 25 years ago. So these games that came out on this console, yes, the Switch Lite may be a little bit of the cheapest console you can buy, the entry point, but those games are timeless. Those games are going to be able to be played forever if Nintendo allows it, but there's going to be a lot of, new experiences you're still going to have even with the Nintendo Switch Lite. So, like I said, if the things that I complained about earlier for you didn't really scare you, then I think this thing is pretty decent. But keep in mind a few things. The Nintendo Switch Lite in the brand new market, I think, is around $200-ish. So it's like around $200. That might be kind of expensive for a device that is about to see the successor. So I say that to say there really isn't a big reason to go ahead and buy something like a Nintendo Switch Lite right now if you have a couple of things in your head. Number one, if you're able to wait until the Switch 2 comes out, then I'd probably recommend waiting for the next iteration of the Nintendo Switch and then buying a Switch Lite and seeing if it gets a price decrease or if it goes out, or something like that, right? Now, if that's not a big deal to you, then I would probably recommend seeing if you can save up enough to go for the Nintendo Switch OLED or the original Nintendo Switch. Those ones are definitely going to be way better devices to go and pick up than the Switch Lite. The additions and the new things you're going to be getting inside of the Nintendo Switch OLED or the original Switch are you're able to dock it, you're able to plug it into a TV and output it that way. You're able to plug in those Joy-Cons that are detachable and you can play multiplayer games that way. You're getting better displays as well. So those consoles are giving you way better displays there. And that can be another really, really big advantage for you as well. So in my personal opinion, there are a lot of reasons to, buy a Switch Lite, but if you have the option to, I'd recommend switching up to something like the original Nintendo Switch or the Switch OLED and going down that direction in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.